Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Journey Success Stories podcast. I'm Jennifer Shuffle, your host, and today we have Alyssa Dver with us. She is, oh my gosh, you guys, she has two businesses. So this is going to be a really cool conversation. She has the American Confidence Institute, ACI. She is the CEO and co-founder of that, but she also has the Employee Resource Group Leadership Alliance. It's a mouthful. And
Well,
she is the chair and founder.
I was going to say I'm a very fond of very long URLs.
I love that. So it's going to be really cool talking to her today as far as her journey to business ownership. What has that looked like? The challenges along the way, but of course, those best practices, because maybe that's how she has two and not just one. And she's going to really share a sneak peek into what is it like to be a business owner. But of course, if this is your first time to the channel, make sure that you like and subscribe so you can get notifications every time we have a new show drop, just like this one. Of course, welcome so much to the show, and thank you for being here and taking the time out of your day.
Of course, I'm excited to do this with you. Appreciate it.
Oh, we are too. So tell us, definitely tell us about yourself, what got you to business ownership, and what all you do with these two businesses.
Oh, it's a big question. So you're going to have to cut me off after about a minute because it's going to be too boring otherwise. But here's the thing. I went through traditional schooling and college and all that, and it came into the corporate world and was there for about 25 years. Was successful in it, right? I liked it. It was okay. I was the head of marketing for a number of companies, tech and HR related, and all kinds of others. Some here in the US, some elsewhere, some public, some private. So, I was trying it all. But as many people, and I'm sure many people are listening, you get that like, committees. You talked about committees before. Like, yeah, they're all itty bitty, what kinds of committees. So, needless to say, I wasn't necessarily looking to be a business owner. So my first step out was really as a consultant, and I had independent consulting gigs all over the world, was doing that. And again, it was very interesting work, and I was working with really interesting clients doing really interesting things. But it still was like that question of like, is this it? Right? Jennifer, have you been there? Like, is this it? This is
Yes.
it? Like, right. So, what made it a little bit more challenging is I was the breadwinner for the family, for a lot of years. And yeah, you're pointing to yourself. So, you kind of feel like suck it up and deal with it for a long time. And
Yes.
anyway, I know I'm talking to a lot of people who've been there, done that. Maybe you're doing it right now. There was a moment, to say the least, where I had a situation with my older son. Now he's 27 now, but this was back when he was about 8. And it became a journey that is a longer story than we have for the podcast, but certainly all documented on my website and my TED Talks and some other places if people want to read about it. But he was diagnosed with a very serious neurological condition, and the prognosis was really dire that he would become fully quadriplegic. So I tried my best to get the best medical help. And I'm based in Boston. We had some pretty good, medical support here, but it was failing. And I went all over the world looking for help, and eventually realized that nobody really knew the answers, but it was very lucky timing based on new technology that was coming out. And this was before the word brain science was something anybody ever heard of. So I was lucky in the sense of timing to dive into it as a fierce mama bear to try and figure out how to help my son. And in doing that, was learning all this brain science and realized, wow, this is really interesting, cool. And it relates to something that had always fascinated me, which was confidence. So again, longer story, cut as short as I can, started the Institute in 2015 as a way of bringing this knowledge base, this body of knowledge around how our brains work, specifically in the area of confidence, and how we can improve it for ourselves as well as give other people confidence in a scientific, data-proven way. And that was kind of my foray into it, but it wasn't like drop the consulting and go into the new business. I had a plan to kind of ramp into it while ramping down consulting over a number of years. And it took about 5 years to get to the place where I was like, okay, bye-bye consulting.
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yes.
I think that's, for a lot of people, they don't always do that ramp. Did you do that when you made some changes in your life?
Not at all. It
Oh,
was I
perfect.
unplugged one and plugged into another
Yeah, and that's
and did
scary.
not think about what was this ramp up period really looking like. And that is a great piece for other business owners or entrepreneurs that are thinking about maybe starting something because cash flow can be a huge issue if you don't take into account that ramp up period.
That's right. And I think what happens to a lot of people is they have some initial business, right? They have a client or somebody that's committed to doing something, and you
Mhm.
start building, you're like, oh, it's going to be fine. And then all of a sudden you run out of that initial low-hanging fruit and you're like, oh crap, what do we do now? Right.
Absolutely.
So having a ramp was a little bit safer for me, again, as a breadwinner and everything else, raising a young family and this, that, and the other. It was just, I can't be totally, you know, off with a new thing. And there was this big question about like, who's going to buy confidence stuff, right? Like, I mean, it's weird, right? So, um, as I was trying to figure out as a good marketing person, right? And that
Yes.
was my background. Like,
Right.
who are my clients? What's my niche? Who is my addressable market? It was really hard. And this
Mm.
is another big thing for all entrepreneurs. We want to service everyone and we don't want to turn away business. We don't want to leave quote money on the table.
Right.
So we try and be everything to everyone and we wind up being nothing to no one.
Correct.
And it was very frustrating for me. I'm like, I don't know. I'm serving all these different kinds of companies. I'm serving individuals. I'm serving coaches and women and da, 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 da. So try was trying to figure that out. And in that process, realized that I was getting invited a lot to ERGs, these employee resource groups. And I thought that they were not only fascinating, but they were very disorganized. And I was trying to understand why, because at the heart of them really was the purpose of bringing people together for a sense of belonging, that you and I are both women, we're in this group, or you and I are both Hispanic, we're in this group, or whatever the formation of the group was.
Correct.
And
Correct.
this is back in 2017, right? This is before most people even knew what ERGs were. And even today, it's still a big question for a lot of
Correct.
people. But I thought to myself, these are really interesting. And I remember coming home to my husband saying, I got to start another business. And he was like, what? I know I don't want to do it, but I need to, because not only is this a perfect place to extend the confidence work, but I think there's a huge opportunity here.
Mm.
And that was in 2019 that I first did it. And again, I took a slow step. I said, let me run a symposia and see who shows up. And, we had, with no brand, no nothing, I said, we're going to get together and talk about ERGs. And I don't remember how much we charged for the ticket, but there was a charge. I didn't want people to just come.
Right.
And we had Harvard, Yale, Princeton, the World Bank, um, TJX. Accenture. I mean, it was unbelievable who just showed up. And I said, "Oh, there's something here." And so I started ELA that year, 2019, and we all know what happened in 2020.
Yes.
But because of the remote work and because of people needing to connect and belong, we actually got lift in that. And ELA grew, 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 and has grown ever since with all the other subsequent Black Lives Matters and everything else that happened
Yes.
in the last 2 years, which we can talk about in another question, with the US directives and things. It's been quite challenging. But
Yeah.
what I think the moral of the story was, yes, I run two companies, but the confidence work has really plugged in nicely to what we call ELA, because it's a lot easier to say that. So the two companies are symbiotic, but it is two companies, two entities.
Yes. So there are so many questions. When it comes to confidence, I had a seminar even just yesterday around imposter syndrome and the things that we tell ourselves, but how do we show up as humans? So there were a couple things that we had talked about before, which I completely love, as just things as humans that we really should do to empower ourselves and to have that confidence. So if you could quickly share maybe a little snippet or two of things that you always recommend for us to be showing up as our best selves?
Well, there's a couple of things that you mentioned just now that I'm going to kind of maybe shift not only your vocabulary, but maybe a little bit of your mindset.
Okay.
Because when you look at not only definitionally what confidence is, but scientifically what it is the moment you make a decision to deal with something, right? So it is your amygdala getting frightened about something and saying, no, I'm not going to wig out. I'm not going to
Yes.
be reactive. I'm going to consciously think about what I want to do with this. So that's the
Mhm.
confident moment, right?
Yes.
So part of this whole scheme of things is when you talk about something like imposter syndrome, here's the thing. If you have imposter syndrome and you're lingering in it, that's bad because the thing you should be doing is saying, okay, I have a little imposter syndrome. What am I going to do about it? Then the imposter syndrome doesn't have control over you.
Correct.
And it's not about how you show up. It's about how you are deciding what you're going to do to deal with whatever you feel like is holding you back, right? So
Yes.
if you're lingering, whether it's in fear of missing out or imposter syndrome or burnout for that matter,
Yes.
we give these things names. We allow ourselves to mire in it, but it's okay for a little period. Give yourself a little pity party.
Absolutely.
That's okay. But make the decision that by Tuesday, I'm going to be putting a plan to make myself move forward. And that's that confident moment. And no matter what you're doing to make it go forward is fine as long as you're not mired anymore.
Yes. That is absolute gold. And thank you. That is completely where I was going with this. So I appreciate you so much. So the other thing that we had talked about is thinking time. Tell us more about thinking time and the importance.
Even more so these days, right? Because it's hard to keep the thought in a single, solitary, non-distractible way, right? We are so distracted with everything.
Mhm.
I'm sure while people are listening or watching this podcast, they're doing something else, right? Your emails or walking or whatever you're doing. We always got to do 15 things at once. And we know brains don't multi-process, they context switch. So you miss things and you may not even know that you're missing things. So making time to really focus on something that's important, you've got to consciously do that. You've got to put yourself in a place where there's not electronic digital distraction and just whatever it is. Now, yes, you can walk and think at the same time, provided you're walking in a place that's familiar and you're not making decisions, do I go left or right, right? Like you really are focused on
Yeah.
whatever that problem, challenge, or memory, whatever it is you want to think about. And that's really hard today. And people are very short attention span, right? So the only
Yes.
way you're going to do that is if you make time and ability to do it. Now, do you need a lot of time? No, maybe it's in your shower. I'm hoping that everyone doesn't have to think much about shampoo, but you can do that. I have a pool in the back, and my team knows that there's an hour most every day in the summer, provided the weather's good, then I'm floating because I got to go back there and figure something important out, or I need to kind of just chill out. There's too much neural activity in my brain. I'm not being as organized and thoughtful as I'd like. So that's how I do it. How do you find thinking time, or do you?
So the shower is always the number one thing because it's me waking up because I take a shower every morning. It's part of my critical to-dos just to wake up. But I will honestly say, even before I go to sleep, I reflect upon the day. And I also do a lot of gratitude and thinking about what has this day gifted me as well.
Nice.
So, yes, thinking time is, my opinion, essential because we do have too many things coming at us because of these,
Yeah, the
and we
thoughts.
have to just stop and think.
Right. And more, and the reason I say more so for these days, not only because there's so much information and all the screens, like even if you're watching, like we were watching some of the FIFA soccer games, and there's 42 screens popping up all over with different headlines, and it's like it's numbing, right? But with AI, might I say, as a business owner, I use a ton. My team uses a ton.
Agreed? Yeah.
But if you're not thinking and you're letting that thing do whatever agent you're using do the thinking for you, you're screwed.
Yes.
You're really
Yes.
screwed. Like somebody said to me last night, I was in a board meeting and they said, we got a grant proposal And it was clearly written by AI and it was all garbage. And I was like, well, if somebody wasn't smart enough to read the AI application, that's a good reason to just not give them a grant, right? They're just not deserving. But, I think we have to make a special effort that just because AI said so or AI gave us this paragraph doesn't mean that you are excused from reading it and processing it.
Yes.
And we're getting lazy. We're getting really lazy.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Completely agree. The other piece that I want to lean into thinking time, find your own spot.
Yeah.
What is that coveted spot for you? At the end of the day, when I'm doing my reflection, it's just my bed and it's my comfy little spot. And I love it there. I have a chair actually here as well. If during the time I start to feel like there's just too much and I'm just like, nope, I got to just sit. So, to your point, as far as the pool, because you're not taking that phone into the pool, you could. I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend
I couldn't. No, 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 that's impossible.
but that helps because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
minimizing the distractions so that you can be in the moment and just think.
Yep.
My other great spot is my hot tub. It's on
Yeah.
the fritz right now, so that's why I didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
I gotta
Well,
replace it.
here's the funny thing though, too, because there's times and more times than I will say that I'm actually thinking that it's just a time to unplug.
Yes.
And I say unplug, not just from the phone, but literally from brain activity. And it's
Mm,
really important, you know, you have to business owner and look, I am as guilty as everybody, I'm sure, who you're preoccupied with everything, right? You're preoccupied that you're not making enough money, that you're wasting time, that you not doing enough of something, social media or whatever it is, right?
always.
You're always like ruminating, right? And so sometimes, most of the times, I'm not always sleeping as soundly as I'd like. So that's the time your brain is actually not only rebuilding, but it's cleaning out all the gunk in your brain. And when I say gunk, not just thoughts, not just neural connections, but all the plaque that builds up. And here's the thing, my friends, that's the stuff that gives Alzheimer's is the plaques. So if you're not giving yourself, when you say thinking time, it may be just chilling time, right? That you're not focused on the business. I know I get sometimes so wound up. I got to finish this. I got to do this. Like what, right? And if you're sacrificing that downtime,
Hmm.
only hurting your business and you're only hurting your brain.
Oh, well said. Thank you. Absolutely true. The other thing that you had mentioned earlier, ICP, so your ideal client profile. What was the process that you took in order to create that for you? Because you have to find that niche and what really works for you. So, what was that process as you developed that?
Well, as I was saying earlier, it was like that moment of these people really like the confidence work, and I was looking for a niche, right? An addressable market, a target market. There's 100 different
Yes,
names for it, right?
right.
And I thought, oh, this could be it. And part of the process, or part of the criteria, I should say, was I really wanted to like the people.
Mm,
Right. I mean, there's 100,000 different markets I could have gone after, but a lot of them, I spoke at a couple of like private equity kinds of conferences and
mhm.
things. And, the people in the room would be like this, with this sour, dour faces. And I'm like, I don't like that. That's not fun. And
Right.
so the ERGs were filled with people who were compassionate and passionate and lovely, open-minded people. And I was like, I like these people. So, and I want to help these people. And I think I can help these people. And they seem to like what I have to offer. So it was a very honest, feels like a really good match. The question of the market size, people were like, you're nuts. Why would you go to this market? It's so disorganized and there's not very much money in it. And I mean, I had some really senior, like very wise people tell me that like that was just a dumb move. And I was like, well, I think there's something to be said for this. In the first year that we cracked $1 million, I went back to them and I said, see? So, I kind of feel like that was all part of it. It was a little bit of, faith and stubbornness and all those things that most entrepreneurs really need to have. But I think a lot of it had to do with it just in my head and in gut, it was like, this is good. This is a good direction. And I just didn't expect it to be so successful so soon, which is a good thing to have, but scaling it and building it big, that was a big part of also some of my initial, I don't want to say growing, it wasn't growing pain because this was not my first rodeo, of course. I actually
Right.
had other businesses along the way, so I kind of knew what not to do. That was there, but I also knew enough to build this one for scale. And so did that from the early ground up. And it was, we're not going to do these things, but we are going to do those things. And the justification was so that when we're really big someday, and that has made a huge difference.
Fabulous. And yes, my next question was going to be about scalability because you had talked about hitting that first million. By the way, before we get into that, how many employees do you have today?
Well, this is a really interesting business model. And I share this because as a woman,
Yes.
you're always, people want to know how big are you and how many employees you have because size is the ultimate metric. And I'm going to kibosh that. And maybe Jennifer, you can help me here on do that because bigger isn't better. And we're seeing all these stats
Right.
now, women who are falling off the corporate ladder, they're going into businesses. And I think whether you're male, female, or not identified, non-binary,
Yep. Right.
whatever your identity is, this applies to everyone. If the business makes you happy and does what it needs to support you in whatever way that is, that's a great business. So bigger is not better. And when I was very deliberate in the beginning that I want to sell the business at some point soon. Not soon, not like tomorrow, but like not, I'm 61 years old. I'm not going to do this for the next 10 years, right? So I was like, you know what? I am going to set this up so that I'm the only employee officially. We have 15 contractors who do various jobs in the business.
Hmm.
They all have some amount of dedicated time to the business. So they act like employees, quite honestly. I know when they're working and what they're doing, and we check in every week and all that. And then we have 55 at this moment, 55, and it grows every month, trainers around the world who are brought in based on what needs we have. If there's a client that needs training, and we have something called the ERG University that's virtual, runs throughout the year. So they do those things. So that's how I scaled it in a way that didn't break the bank, gives me a lot of flexibility, agility. It supports all these beautiful people who work at ELA that have lives too. And, we pay them a good wage and salaries, so to speak, not salary, but, 1099.
Right.
Works really well.
Yes. I love my 1099 people because that is how you can scale very quickly. And life happens too. So they can be also their best selves and be there for their family or whatever.
That's right.
As you had even mentioned your son earlier, which thank you so much for sharing that piece of your why, because it's so important. As I had started the business, I lost my brother and became an only child overnight. So there are certain things that do happen that have us leave that corporate world because of the guilt or shame or judgment that we feel is in our head and say, you know what, I need to be more present, not existing for my family and to be actually there for them as you did for your son.
Yeah. And, I should cap it to say not only is he thriving, he is a guidance counselor in an underserved elementary school. And the reason he went to that is because he's like, Ma, I understand what it's like to be a little different. He is not quadriplegic. He's not even, I mean, he's disabled in the sense he still has some issues, but he's a tennis pro on the weekends. So far from quadriplegic, but he is just a gift on so many levels. I have another son who is actually the youngest brewer in New England ever. So official brewer,
Oh,
but like totally opposites in so many ways. But I think I just gonna harp a little bit more that there is this sense that I got to make it bigger, better, faster, smoother, whatever do this, and I hope people are taking away a sense that you can be extraordinarily successful, right? Like You didn't mention before, so I'm going to just drop it. I've done 2 TED Talks. I've written 8 books. I do things that make me happy. And not all my books are serious. There's two, you can see them behind me. There's 2 kid books. There was one that was really saucy for women. And then I've written an ARG book. I've written a software product management book. Like, I find things that make me happy. Now, again, some people will say, you're too distracted. You're all over the place. I had a manager early in my career who said, you're always better being like a first baseman than a utility player because nobody's going to pay you enough. And I said to him, but I like utility things. It keeps me from being bored.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And to this day, I think that people have to follow their hearts and their heads, not just, what people are telling you to do or what's the right thing to do, is because eventually you do become bored, disengaged, and, de-enamored, whatever. But I think the same has to apply a little bit to your business too.
Yes.
Yes, we have to be disciplined. Yes, we have to make good business decisions, but sometimes those decisions have what I call qualitative data, which is I just wanna.
Yes. Very true. And just saying, it sounds like that person may have had a couple of limiting beliefs. So thank you for not taking that one. It sounds like you took it more as a challenge.
Always.
That's how I function too. I'm like, this is a game and I'm going to win.
Yeah, I'm very competitive. And I think that is a common thread, but it's not competitive necessarily with other people. It's more competitive with like, I want to be better. I want to learn more. I want to,
Yes.
I want to have more fun, whatever it is. And so that's a very that is my motivator, no question about it.
Yeah.
With that said, I'd be lying if I didn't say money didn't motivate me. Don't get me wrong.
Hmm.
But I'm not willing to sacrifice my values, who I am and what I do and what brings me pleasure, um, to make more money. I could probably make more money in the corporate world, but I would be miserable. So why would I do that?
Well, we don't want to trap that fierce mama bear because she needs to be out in the world and promoting others and to really do this great passion. So thank you for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm right back at you.
Absolutely. All right. So, where do you see these beautiful businesses 5 years from now? Like you've shown up 5 years. What does it look like?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that, I'm going to eventually sell ELA because I think it's invaluable and I want it to continue well beyond me. And it was built for that reason, right? Like it's an enormous organization now in terms of we have 25,000 company or organization, not just companies, but nonprofits. I mean, we support some of the most beautiful nonprofits around the world, and government and um, academics, all kinds of people all over the planet. And so like it definitely can't go when I'm ready to go, right? So that's definitely part of the plan. The Confidence Institute, I will do until I can't breathe anymore because I just love that work. And I have so many other, not just business ideas, but aspects of things that I want to do. I have quite a few, additional books and things like that. So, I don't think I'll ever officially retire per se, but because my career is not out climbing telephone poles or doing anything that's physically limiting,
Right.
I think I'm going to continue to push out interesting ideas and formats and do things like that until I can't do it anymore.
Right. Well, and let's be honest, it'll also be the thing that keeps you fresh, not having that plaque on your brain, and keeps you pushing forward as well, which is super important. And doing those float times.
Yes, absolutely. I think that a lot of people, particularly business owners, right? We're talking kind of in this business ownership scheme
Yes.
of things. We all have different motivations for why we want to be a business owner, right? And I say different because even in your lifetime, like when I was a lot younger, my motivations were around money and security and control
Right.
and things like that. And as I'm getting older, it's very different. In fact, I've been studying what I call the maturepreneur because when you're 50 or older,
Mm.
you're starting a business for very different reasons. And it could
Yeah.
be I was laid off and there's no way I'm going to find work. I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people are in that situation right now, and that's okay. I mean, don't be shamed by that. That's you're doing something, right? And I think it's great.
Yes.
And I think, in some ways you're going to say, why didn't I do it sooner, right? But the motivation behind why you're starting a business, be really honest with yourself and true to that, because I think it's when you fall off that path that it's not fun, it's not enjoyable, it becomes a chore and it becomes stressful, and stress ain't good, you know?
No, no. And it's no fun. And as long as you're having fun, you're going to continue to love life and thrive and to be motivated each and every day. You're going to bounce out of bed and be like, let's do this.
Really? Because that's never happened to me. I don't bounce out of bed. That's my husband. I'm like, I crawl out of bed and, like 3 cups of coffee later, I'm at least, human. No, I mean, here's the thing. And I'm teasing you a little bit because it's not, I don't bounce out of bed. I'm a night hawk, first of all. So that's part of the problem. But I know that when I'm doing the work and when I see the impact, it makes me really happy,
Yeah.
right? I'm not just doing it to collect a paycheck. I'm not just doing it because I don't feel like dealing with a toxic boss, right? I'm not doing it because, I want to prove myself worthy of something. Those are not, especially at my age, I'm like, I'm doing it because this is enjoyable. Now, is it enjoyable every moment? Hell no.
Right.
Hell no.
Yeah.
If anyone is dealing with procurement, like we deal with a lot of procurement stuff, that is like poking my eyes out, right? Stuff like that. I'm like, "Ugh, you need an IT policy, like, ugh," right?
Yeah.
But
Contracts,
right,
legal, like,
yeah,
but some
garbage.
people thrive.
Yeah, some people love it, like accounting. Like, please don't make me do QuickBooks, right? So, but the good news is not only can I hire people to help with those things, which is a gift. I
Yes.
do use AI, like I said before. I'm using it now more and more to do things that are not so pleasant. So that's a neat way as a business owner. Like if you're going like, crud, I got to do whatever it is. I got to
Yep.
write, a termination letter today, or I've got to do, I did my entire IT privacy policy stuff because we have global
Yeah.
clients. So we have to have global thing. I was like, I don't know what the global standards are on all of this. So use
Yeah.
AI to do some of that stuff. Now, it's still going to be not exciting. You're not going to bounce out of bed to do it, but it certainly makes it a lot less horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, most days, yeah, I'm bouncing out of bed. And it's funny because I've always been a night owl.
Huh.
Um, and yeah, I've flipped the switch. So I
So
don't know
that's
how.
when you like, yeah, I was going to say, go back to when you feel like that happened.
Yeah, I think it was more around driving my life around passion and purpose and doing it more for getting businesses to thrive
Yeah.
and seeing people get to a different place than where they ever were to begin with
Yeah.
and the
So
ahas that they've had.
that's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because like you're very clear, like it was something that you were doing that was meaningful and it was meaningful to you. And so you're bouncing, which is great. I
Yes.
don't think I'm too old.
All
But
right.
there are nights and I'm up till 3 in the morning because I'm so on fire. So it depends on how you're going to define bounce. I don't. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, to be honest, there was a thunderstorm last night that woke me up at 2 a.m. and I was like, wait, 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 wait. So I may have not bounced as I normally do this morning, but yeah, it's still so I was excited to have this conversation. So of course.
Yes, absolutely. That's why we scheduled it at 11 o'clock my time because I could be awake and excited by then.
So this has been an awesome conversation. I do have a couple rapid fire questions.
For it.
Ready?
Yeah, I think so.
You are. All
Yes.
right. What is the key to success for you?
For me,
Yeah.
the key to success for me is knowing that I am doing something that is of value each and every day. And value to me personally, but value to the people that I serve. So that makes me very happy.
Excellent. What is your one piece of advice to other business owners?
Do not have two businesses. That is part of it. No, I think the one piece of advice is pick a market and don't worry about the money you're leaving on the table because you're not. Pick that market, focus on it, make it so that you're committed to that market. And then you can always add markets later on. But if you're not going to do that, it's going to be impossible to market, to find, to prove, to win the business. And that's very scary for new business owners, particularly.
Absolutely. What is a book or a podcast that you're reading or listening to right now?
Well, your podcast, of course. No, and I have my own podcast, so I do a fair amount of that. I am a armchair expert fanatic, particularly for the experts they have, because I think they're fascinating, very brain science. But I am reading right now In Search of God in Guinness,
Ooh,
which, because my son's a brewer, it's particularly interesting because it's the history of beer, but it's a nice book and it's a good summary for me. It's not fantasy, but it's as close as I usually get to reading anything that's, fun.
thank you. It's nice to know I'm not the only geek that is so submerged in so many business books. And then when I try to do one for fun, I'm like, I don't feel this as much. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, you know what? You and I probably are similar. Like we're on the computer all day, reading all day long. At the end of the day, my eyes are kind of tired. And so
uh,
if I'm going to invest some time in reading something, I kind of feel like it should be something that's fulfilling. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be heavy, but it should be something that's not just fluffy. But to be honest with you, I once in a while I go total fluff. And sometimes at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm like trying to unwind, I'll watch, totally meaningless TV kind of things because
it's
yeah, they
important.
put me to sleep then finally. So anyway,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. All right. So here's a fun question for you.
Okay.
If you had a little bit of magic dust that you could sprinkle over one part of the business, where would it be?
Magic dust. Huh. Well, I I would love it. This is really hard to answer because I'm not trying to formulate the answer in the best way. I think it would be lovely to get rid of all the roadblocks created by our political system right now.
Mm,
Not just because it would make my business a lot easier because it's tricky navigating, specifically being in the diversity space, which
yeah.
we tend to overlap with. But what's happening here as a personal note, I know there's no political statements, but it's heartbreaking. And I see it, directly through the business because of the people we work with. So that would be every speck of my dust. It's to abolish all this nonsense.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for thinking through that one too, because that's a hard one.
Mm.
All right. So before we get to the final question of the day,
Mhm.
how can people reach out to you to learn more and to, of course, learn all the great books and things that you're doing?
Oh, that's so wonderful and kind. I appreciate it. So my name's a little tricky, but if you will look me up on LinkedIn, that's usually the best way to connect. And I love to connect with people, and especially business owners. I do a lot of work with them. So please look me up. It's Alyssa, the last name, 4 letters. D like David, V like Victor, E like Edward, R like Robert. All one word on LinkedIn, Alyssa Dver. Certainly AmericanConfidenceInstitute.com if you want to learn about that. And ERGLeadershipAlliance.com is the other business.
There's those URLs. Thank you.
Yeah, I told you I like long ones.
I love it. All right. So, final question of the day.
Da, da, da.
What is most inspiring to you today?
Most inspiring personally or just in general? Like,
Ooh, I like the personal aspect because I like to get to know my people even more.
yeah, okay. Most inspiring. Um, well, I think it, for better or for worse, goes back to a little bit of my magic desk statement. I love talking with people who are pushing ahead despite the
Mm,
obstacles, right? And
yes.
this ability to be human and support people of all different shapes, sizes, likes, colors, demographics. To me, it's intuitively like, of course we're going to do that. And yet, it's really hard today. So when I get to talk with the people that we work for, that we serve, and hear how they're pursuing and pushing forward and being heroes in their own space, it makes me really inspired. And so if I can support them and they're going to reach, some of them have audiences of 1 million people in these bigger companies,
Right.
that's very inspiring. It's motivating as much as it's inspiring.
It drives that purpose home as to why you started to begin with.
It does. And I think, in retrospect, I had no perspective of that
Mhm.
going into this. And I think, for now, I almost feel obligated that I have to bounce out of bed because there's a lot of people counting on me. So if that's what it takes to get me bed before 10, that's no big. But in all fairness, it really is that kind of impact, and it makes me really happy to do that. So, but I couldn't do it on my own. I have a great team, and then we have all these amazing clients that are pushing forward, and we're there to kind of be there
Yes.
for them. So,
Awesome. And yes, thank you for that bounce. And I can't wait. You're going to think of me tomorrow when you wake up and you're going to be like,
I'm like that
I'm
Jennifer
supposed to
bouncing. I'm going back on snooze. See you later. Even my dog knows, 3
He's
snoozes
like,
tells me, and then he's like, "Okay, mom, come on, let's go." Very
well,
well
this
trained.
was a great conversation. I really enjoyed hearing your story. And of course, thank you for sharing.
Oh, thank you for having me here and being such a good host.
Oh,
Great.
of course. This is fun. So I told you before, I absolutely love this because I get to know people on a whole different level. So thank you. And thank you for that vulnerability and sharing too. So, of course, I encourage all of you who are watching, if you haven't liked and subscribed yet, why? You need to, because you actually need to save this and come back to it time and time again, so that then you can really think about what are maybe some of those boundaries or things that I really need to do or thinking time to really promote not only myself, but what am I doing? So thank you again, everyone who joined. Alyssa, thank you for sharing. You're amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.